Hey, you beautiful cosmic detectives, grab your tinfoil hats and a cup of something strong, because we are diving headfirst into a story that just got a whole lot weirder. For weeks, the object known as 3I Atlas has been the quiet, mysterious guest in our solar system. The mainstream narrative has been, well, a bit of a snooze. They've called it a comet, maybe an asteroid, a chunk of interstellar rock on a sightseeing tour. We've seen the blurry pictures, the strange shapes that looked suspiciously like Pac-Man, and we've been told over and over, there's nothing for us to be concerned about. In fact, let's just roll that wonderful, totally not suspicious at all clip from our good friends in charge. Feel better? Me neither. Because while we were being reassured, a couple of very real, very credible scientists were doing something radical. Their actual jobs, and what they found has just turned this whole quiet story into a cosmic fire alarm. Forget the old, boring studies from September that basically said, yep, it's a rock, and it's moving. Yuri Medvedev and Sergei Pavlov, and I strongly suggest you look these guys up. Their resumes are thicker than a black hole's event horizon just dropped a bombshell on the Astronomer's Telegram, which is basically the scientific community's high-security group chat. Using data gathered by the Gemini telescope, they applied a new analytical method and confirmed something that should make the hair on your arms stand up. According to their meticulous work, 3I Atlas is exhibiting periodic, non-random changes. Let me break it down for you in plain English. First, every 4 hours, plus or minus 2, this thing changes its position. It's not just moving along its path, it's making small course corrections. It's got a wiggle, a shimmy. It's like it's dancing its way through the solar system. Now, before you say outgassing, let's get to the second part, because this is where it gets really spicy. Every 2 hours, plus or minus a bit, 3I Atlas has a pulse of brightness. It flashes, like it's blinking a light, or maybe, just maybe, adjusting its solar panels. Now, I'm not the one saying this is an alien probe. Science is saying this is an object that is systematically adjusting its position and emitting regular bursts of light, all while cruising through our solar system. If your mind isn't already doing backflips, and if you think this is the kind of explosive truth we should be sharing, then you know what to do. Find that little thumb icon somewhere down below and give it a click, maybe even subscribe. We don't have sponsors here. Our only currency is shared, unadulterated curiosity. Naturally, the mainstream explanations are already getting warmed up in the bullpen. You'll hear talk of a binary nucleus, the idea that 3I Atlas isn't one rock but two, tumbling around each other in a complex dance that could theoretically explain these periodic changes. The flashes of light? Oh, that's just reflections off an uneven rotating surface. Perfectly natural, they'll say. And they might be right. But they have one giant, glaring, a comet the size of a planet-sized problem with that theory. Where is the tail? We've all seen the official images. There's no tail, there's no coma, there is no cloud of gas and dust being blasted off its surface by the sun's radiation. An object that is supposedly outgassing so precisely and powerfully that it can adjust its own trajectory every 4 hours should have a tail so magnificent it would make Halley's Comet look like a flickering candle. It should look like it's having a very bad hair day in a cosmic windstorm, but it doesn't. It's just a clean, sharp, weirdly shaped object moving with a purpose that, for now, we can only speculate about. And this brings us to a weird piece of personal history. A while back, some of you might remember I made a video based on an AI analysis that talked about these exact kinds of bursts. The AI pointed to a study that didn't quite exist, and when I discovered the error, I took the video down immediately because spreading misinformation, even by accident, is not what we do here. But now, seeing real scientists confirm the very thing that Phantom AI was talking about, it makes you wonder. Was that AI lying, or did it have access to data that was online and then suddenly wasn't? It's a strange and unsettling thought. It feels like we're watching a global-scale magic trick, and we've just spotted the magician tucking a card up their sleeve. So, here's where we stand. We have a confirmed scientific report from two top-tier astronomers stating that an interstellar object in our solar system is performing regular, clockwork-like maneuvers. The official, natural explanation requires a massive, unobserved tail. The alternative explanation is that it's a ship. And we are here, my friends, you and I, a bunch of curious observers with our own telescopes, our own critical thinking, and a healthy dose of skepticism, ready to find out the truth. So, is it a clumsy, double-headed comet stumbling its way through space? Or is something, or someone, at the controls? In the next part, we are going to dive deep into that binary nucleus theory and tear it apart, piece by piece, to see if it can possibly hold water in a world with no tail. Stick around. The journey is just getting started. So, the mainstream scientific community, faced with the inconvenient truth of a regularly shifting, flashing object with no visible tail, needs an explanation. And fast. Enter their go-to get-out-of-jail-free card for any cometary weirdness, the binary nucleus. The idea, in its simplest form, is that 3I Atlas is not a single, solid body, but two separate objects, or nuclei, orbiting a common center of gravity. They are gravitationally bound, tumbling through space together in a close and chaotic embrace. In theory, this complex dance could explain both the 4-hour position shift and the 2-hour flash of light. But a theory is not a fact, it's a hypothesis. And a good detective, which is what we are here, has to interrogate the hypothesis until it cracks. Let's put the binary nucleus theory in the hot seat and shine a bright, unforgiving light on it. How would this even work? Imagine two unevenly shaped, potato-like asteroids locked in a close, wobbly orbit. As they spin around each other, their combined center of mass would shift and wobble along its main trajectory. This could, theoretically, account for the 4-hour periodic change in its observed position. Medvedev and Pavlov's data could be interpreted not as an object intentionally changing course, but as the signature of this complex, gravitational tumble. It's like watching a figure skater performing a dizzying spin with a partner. Their path across the ice is not a straight line, but a series of small looping curves. So far, so plausible. But plausible is not the same as probable. Now, what about the 2-hour flashes of brightness? The binary theory tries to explain this as well. As these two bodies tumble, they would present different faces to our telescopes. If one of the objects had a particularly bright icy patch, or a highly reflective flat surface, it would catch the sunlight and create a flash, or a glint, every time it rotated into view. With two objects tumbling in a complex pattern, you could get a periodic brightening that occurs at a different interval from the main positional wobble. In this case, they would argue that a 2-hour flash and a 4-hour wobble are perfectly compatible with a binary system in a very specific, and I mean very specific, configuration. And here we come to our first major objection. For this to work, you need a near-perfect set of coincidences. You need two objects of the right size and shape, in the right orbit around each other, with one having a perfectly placed, highly reflective spot, all tumbling in just the right way to produce a signal so regular and so clockwork-like that two highly respected astronomers flagged it as a statistically significant period. It's a lot to ask of a random, natural object. Nature is beautiful and elegant, but it is rarely this neat. Clockwork precision is usually the domain of one of two things: fundamental physics, like the oscillation of an atom, or intelligent design, like the ticking of a watch. A tumbling double potato in space, it feels like a stretch. But let's, for the sake of argument, grant them they're incredibly lucky tumbling space potatoes. We still have to confront the giant, invisible elephant in the room: the complete and utter lack of a cometary tail. This is the part of the story that the mainstream narrative conveniently whispers, hoping nobody hears. They need the flashes of brightness to be explained by reflective ice patches on the surface. Okay, they need the 4-hour position shift to be explained by jets of outgassing from these rotating nuclei. That's where the wheels come off. The outgassing model is the standard explanation for any comet that deviates from its expected path. As a comet nears the Sun, its icy surface heats up and sublimates, turning directly from a solid into a gas. This gas erupts from the surface in powerful jets, acting like tiny natural rocket thrusters. If these jets are not distributed evenly, they can nudge the comet, altering its spin and its trajectory. To explain a regular 4-hour shift in 3I Atlas's position, you would need these jets to be firing with incredible regularity. The object would have to be rotating in such a way that a specific, powerful vent is exposed to the Sun every 4 hours, firing off a puff of gas that systematically pushes the entire object. But here's the problem with that beautiful theory. An eruption of gas powerful enough to shift an object of this size should produce a coma and a tail that are gloriously, undeniably visible. We are talking about tons upon tons of gas and dust being blasted into space, forming a vast, glowing cloud around the nucleus that would be illuminated by the Sunday. We should be seeing a spectacular show. Instead, we have nothing. The images from the European Space Agency, the images we were the first to see right here on this channel, are crystal clear on this point. This object is clean. It is crisp. It has no discernible tail or coma, even when observed with instruments designed specifically to look for them. So, how does the mainstream narrative square this circle? How can an object be outgassing enough to change its own direction, but not enough to produce a visible tail? Here comes the next layer of special pleading, the fantasy that they accuse us of. They have to invent a new kind of comet. Perhaps, they'll speculate, this interstellar visitor is made of some exotic, invisible gas that doesn't reflect sunlight well. Or perhaps it has a strange, dark crust that traps most of the gas, only allowing it to escape through a few pencil-thin vents that are conveniently aimed away from us. Or my personal favorite, maybe the tail is there, we just can't see it yet. But trust us, it'll show up later. Maybe. This is not science. This is storytelling. It is the act of inventing ever more complex, ever more unlikely scenarios to try and make the data fit a pre-approved conclusion. It is the opposite of the scientific method, which should be about following the evidence wherever it leads, even if it leads to an uncomfortable or extraordinary conclusion. Here on this channel, we respect data, and the data says this. We have a periodic shift in position that suggests thrust. We have a periodic flash of brightness that suggests a reflective or emitting surface. And we have a complete absence of the one thing that should tie both of those phenomena together in a natural cometary model. This is where a true observer has to step back and say, the simple, natural explanation doesn't fit the facts. When the glove doesn't fit, you don't try to surgically alter the hand. You consider the possibility that you have the wrong suspect. So, if we set aside the increasingly fantastical story of the magic, tailless, clockwork comet, what are we left with? We are left with an object that is exhibiting controlled or at least highly regular behavior. The position shift could be the result of a propulsion system, a series of small, regular engine burns designed to make minor course adjustments or to maintain a specific orientation. The flashes of brightness could be anything from communication signals to solar panels adjusting their angle to the sun to the glint of a rotating, metallic hull. The beauty of this alternative hypothesis that it is an artificial object is that it requires no special pleading. A ship is designed to be clean, efficient, and controlled. It wouldn't necessarily have a messy, wasteful tail. It would absolutely have the capacity for propulsion, and it might very well have reflective surfaces or light emitters that are activated on a regular schedule. The alien hypothesis, as strange and wonderful as it sounds, fits the observed data far more cleanly than the ever more contorted natural comet theory. And now, for all of you who have stuck with me this far, who are willing to question the official story and follow the evidence, here's a little something for you. Every like on this video is another vote for independent thought. Every new subscriber is another member of a global crew of observers who refuse to be told what to think. This channel runs on your energy and your curiosity, and I wouldn't have it any other way. In the next part, we're going to talk about that 16-hour rotation period that has been established for 3I Atlas in previous studies, and how this new 4-hour wobble creates a mathematical harmony that is either the luckiest coincidence in the universe or a stunning piece of evidence for intelligent design. You're not going to want to miss this. So, we've established that the natural explanations for 3I Atlas's clockwork behavior are starting to look a little stretched, like a bad alibi. The more details they add, the less believable it becomes. But now, we're going to add another layer of beautiful mathematical intrigue to this cosmic mystery. Because before this new data from Medvedev and Pavlov, other astronomers had already been studying this object for a long time. And one of the key properties they had managed to determine was its rotation period, the time it takes to complete one full spin on its axis. And that number is, or at least was thought to be, around 16 hours. Now, take that number, 16, and hold it in your mind. This 16-hour rotation was a solid, well-established piece of data, derived from long-term observations of the object's light curve, the subtle and gradual changes in its brightness over time. For a natural object, this kind of slow, steady rotation makes perfect sense. An elongated, tumbling asteroid would present its wider, more reflective side to us than its narrower, dimmer side, creating a smooth, wave-like pattern of brightness that peaks and dips every 16 hours. This was the boring, predictable, it's just a rock part of the story. Everyone was comfortable with it. But now, our two heroic astronomers have dropped a 4-hour wobble and a 2-hour flash into the middle of this calm, 16-hour waltz. And suddenly, the music has changed. At first glance, these numbers seem to be in direct contradiction. How can an object have a primary rotation period of 16 hours while also exhibiting a major positional wobble every 4 hours? That doesn't make sense, right? If the object is a single, solid body, it should wobble on the same schedule that it spins. This contradiction is exactly the kind of thing a mainstream debunker would seize on to try and dismiss the new findings. They'd say, well, one of these studies must be wrong. The 4-hour period is probably just noise in the data because we know the rotation is 16 hours. But what if both are right? What if these numbers aren't in contradiction at all, but are in perfect mathematical harmony? Let's do some simple, back-of-the-napkin cosmic math. What is 16 divided by 4? The answer is 4. The 4-hour positional wobble fits perfectly, exactly 4 times, into the main 16-hour rotation. This is what musicians and engineers call a harmonic. It's a relationship where one frequency is a clean, whole number multiple of another. The second harmonic of a musical note is an octave higher. A fourth harmonic, as we see here, is a crisp, predictable interval. This isn't a random, chaotic relationship. It is a relationship of profound order. Imagine a spinning wheel. The wheel completes one full turn every 16 seconds. Now, imagine that there are 4 equally spaced jets on the rim of that wheel. Each time a jet points in a certain direction, it fires a short burst. This would mean that the wheel gives itself a push every 4 seconds. You would have a 16-second primary rotation and a 4-second periodic thrust. The two motions would not contradict each other. They would be perfectly synchronized. The 4-hour position shift of 3I Atlas, happening at exactly 1/4 of its primary rotation period, strongly suggests that whatever is causing the shift is not a random, outgassing vent, but something that is structurally integrated into the object's design. It implies that there might be 4 distinct active sites on its surface, firing in sequence as the object rotates. This is a stunning piece of evidence. A natural comet, a lumpy, chaotic potato of ice and rock, would be extremely unlikely to have 4 equally powerful, equally spaced vents that all fire with perfect 4-hour regularity. It would be like finding a natural rock formation that just happens to be a perfect Roman-style arch. It's not impossible, but it stretches the definition of coincidence to its breaking point. An engineered object, on the other hand, a spaceship. For a ship to have 4 or more symmetrically placed thrusters for attitude control or station keeping is not just plausible. It's standard, logical engineering design. Look at any of our own spacecraft, from the Apollo lunar module to the SpaceX Starship. They are covered in clusters of small, precisely placed thrusters. The harmony between the 16-hour spin and the 4-hour shift is a whisper that is slowly turning into a shout. But let's not forget the other number, the 2-hour pulse of brightness. How does that fit in? What is 4 divided by 2? 2. The flashes of light are happening at the second harmonic of the positional shift. And what is 16 divided by 2? 8. The flashes are happening at the 8th harmonic of the primary rotation. The numbers are all locking into place like the tumblers of a cosmic safe. They are all musically, mathematically related. This suggests an even more complex and intricate system at play. Let's go back to our spinning wheel. It has 4 jets firing every 4 hours. Now, let's imagine that in addition to the jets, the object also has 8 equally spaced panels or lights on its surface. As the object rotates its 16-hour turn, a different panel would face us every 2 hours, catching the sunlight or emitting a pulse of its own. You would get a flash of brightness at perfectly regular 2-hour intervals, a clockwork signal that is itself harmonically locked to both the main rotation and the periodic thrust. This is starting to look less like a comet and more like a beautifully designed, self-regulating machine. The pieces fit together with a precision that nature, in its gloriously messy way, rarely achieves. Now, some might say I'm falling into the trap of seeing patterns where there are none, a kind of cosmic numerology. But this isn't about finding spooky coincidences in random numbers. This is about observing that the fundamental, measured properties of this object are not random in relation to each other. They are a symphony of harmonics. For the skeptics in the audience, and I salute you, skepticism is the engine of good science. This is a good time to ask a question. Have we seen this before? The answer is a resounding no. While some comets have complex rotations, and some show periodic outbursts, we have never, ever observed an object with this level of multi-layered, harmonic periodicity. This object is unique. It is special. It is not behaving like any comet or asteroid we have ever documented. And speaking of a great community, a special shout-out and welcome to our newest members. We're building something special here, a place where we follow the data, ask the hard questions, and aren't afraid to dream a little. If that sounds like your kind of adventure, consider joining our crew. There's a button down there for it. No pressure, but just know that every click helps fund our collective curiosity. So let's sum up what we have. A 16-hour base rotation, scientifically established, a 4-hour periodic positional shift, newly confirmed, which is a perfect 4th harmonic of the base rotation, and a 2-hour periodic flash of brightness, also confirmed, which is a perfect 2nd harmonic of the positional shift. If 3i Atlas were a musical instrument, it would be playing a perfectly tuned chord. The question we have to ask ourselves is this: is nature a musician that just got incredibly astronomically lucky? Or are we listening to a song that was composed by someone else? In the next piece, we're going to dive into the work of another incredible mind, Avi Loeb, and his analysis of Oumuamua, the first interstellar visitor, to see how the strange behavior of 3i Atlas fits into a pattern of anomalies that is becoming too significant to ignore. The plot, as they say, is thickening. To truly understand the significance of what we're seeing with 3i Atlas, we can't look at it in isolation. A single strange event can be dismissed as a fluke, a one-off oddity. But when you get two, and they start to look eerily similar, that's when you have a pattern. That's when you have a case. Before 3i Atlas became the cosmic talk of the town, there was another mysterious interstellar visitor that sailed through our solar system, defied all conventional explanations, and left the scientific community scratching their heads in bewildered fascination. That object was named Oumuamua, a Hawaiian word meaning a messenger from afar arriving first. And our chief messenger, the one who had the courage to say what many were thinking, is Dr. Avi Loeb. Avi Loeb is not some fringe YouTuber in a basement. He is the former chair of Harvard's astronomy department, a highly published and fiercely respected theoretical physicist. He is, to put it mildly, the real deal. And when Oumuamua was observed in 2017, He did what all good scientists should do. He followed the data, even when it led him to an extraordinary conclusion. Let's briefly revisit the Oumuamua case file, because the parallels to 3I Atlas are chilling. Oumuamua was the first object we had ever detected entering our solar system from another star system. That alone made it a historic discovery, but its behavior was what truly set it apart. First, there was its shape. We couldn't get a clear picture of it, but by analyzing the way its brightness changed as it tumbled, astronomers inferred a very extreme, elongated shape, either like a long, thin cigar or a flat, pancake-like object. It was nothing like the lumpy, potato-shaped asteroids we were used to. It was weird. But the real bombshell was its movement. As Oumuamua passed by the sun and began to head back out into deep space, it did something that defied the laws of gravity. It gently accelerated. It sped up, pushing away from the sun with a small but measurable force that could not be explained by gravity alone. The official explanation, the one that the scientific establishment scrambled to put forward, was the same old song we're hearing now, outgassing. They claimed Oumuamua must be a comet, and jets of invisible gas were pushing it like a tiny natural rocket. Sound familiar? It gets better. Just like with 3I Atlas, there was one giant fatal flaw in this theory. There was no tail. Astronomers looked with our most powerful telescopes. They searched for any hint of a coma, any cloud of gas or dust around the object. They found nothing. It was pristine. It was a comet that was somehow using rocket jets made of a gas that was completely, totally invisible and left no residue. It was a stealth comet, a concept invented on the spot to save the "it's just a rock" narrative from falling apart. This is where Avi Loeb stepped in and stated the obvious. He pointed out that inventing a new class of comet that has never been seen before and has properties that don't make physical sense is not good science. Instead, he proposed a simpler, more elegant explanation that fit all the data perfectly. The gentle, constant push Oumuamua was experiencing was being caused by solar radiation pressure, the momentum of sunlight itself. For this to work, for the gentle push of sunlight to be strong enough to accelerate a physical object, that object would have to have two key properties. It would have to be extremely thin, and it would have to have a large surface area. It would need to be a solar sail, a light sail, something engineered. The backlash was immediate and intense. Loeb was accused of sensationalism, of jumping to conclusions, of betraying the cautious conservatism of science. But he never wavered. He calmly pointed to the facts: Oumuamua's strange shape, its non-gravitational acceleration, and the complete lack of a tail. The natural comet explanation, he argued, required far more speculation and fantasy than the idea that we had just been visited by a piece of technology from another civilization. He wasn't saying it was definitively a ship full of little green men. It could have been a defunct piece of tech, a navigational buoy, a weather station, or simply a thin, durable piece of space debris from a long-dead civilization. But it behaved like something artificial. Now, fast forward to today. Here we are with our second interstellar visitor, 3I Atlas, and it's déjà vu all over again. Just like Oumuamua, it exhibits non-gravitational movement, those 4-hour positional shifts. And just like Oumuamua, it has no visible tail to explain that movement through natural outgassing. It's the same pattern, the same set of anomalies. The establishment is once again reaching for their well-worn, it's probably a weird comet security blanket, but the blanket is starting to look pretty threadbare. The case for 3I Atlas being artificial is, in many ways, even stronger than it was for Oumuamua. With Oumuamua, we had a single, gentle acceleration. With 3I Atlas, we have a periodic, clockwork-like set of maneuvers that are harmonically tuned to its own rotation. This isn't a gentle, constant push from sunlight. This is active. This feels controlled. The harmonic relationship between the 16-hour spin, the 4-hour wobble, and the 2-hour flash suggests a level of complexity and internal order that pushes the natural explanation to the absolute brink. We now have not one, but two interstellar objects that have entered our solar system and behaved in ways that defy our standard models of comets and asteroids, both sharing the key feature of a mysterious, unexplained thrust. When a strange thing happens once, it's an anomaly. When it happens twice, and in a similar fashion, it starts to look like a message. The universe may be trying to tell us something, and it's getting a little louder this time. Now, a huge welcome to all the new explorers who have joined our ranks. It is a thrilling time to be an observer of the cosmos, and I'm honored to have you on board this spaceship of curiosity. For our new members, don't forget, there's a special, members-only post on the channel where you can suggest a name for our collective spaceship. No rush, the suggestion box is always open. It's a little bit of fun as we tackle these massive cosmic questions together. So let's place the files for Oumuamua and 3i Atlas side by side on our Cosmic Detective's desk. Both are interstellar. Both exhibit non-gravitational acceleration. Both lack any observable coma or tail. One had an extreme unnatural shape. The other exhibits extreme unnatural periodicity. Taken together, they paint a picture that is difficult to ignore. The alternative is to believe that we've been visited by not one, but two completely different, never-before-seen types of stealth comets, back to back, each with its own unique brand of magical physics. At a certain point, the natural explanation becomes the most fantastical story of all. In the next piece, we'll tackle a question that's probably on all your minds right now. If this is a ship, what could it possibly be doing? Is it a probe? A relay station? Or is it something else entirely? The speculation is about to get very interesting indeed. So, we're standing at a thrilling crossroads of possibility. We've examined the evidence, questioned the official narrative, and placed the strange behaviors of 3i Atlas and Oumuamua side by side. The hypothesis that these are not natural objects, but artifacts of an extraterrestrial intelligence, is on the table, and it fits the observed data with a chilling and beautiful elegance. Now comes the fun part. Let's fire up our imaginations, guided by the facts we have, and speculate. If 3i Atlas is a machine, a probe, a ship, what could its mission be? What is it doing here? Let's begin with the most straightforward and perhaps most scientifically plausible idea. This is an unmanned reconnaissance probe, a deep space explorer sent by another civilization, not so different in purpose from our own Voyager or Pioneer spacecraft. For a highly advanced civilization wanting to explore the galaxy, sending out billions of small, resilient, AI-powered probes would be a far more efficient strategy than sending fragile, biological beings on perilous, million-year journeys. These probes could be designed to last for eons, self-repairing, self-powered, and programmed with a simple, patient directive: travel, observe, report. In this scenario, the behaviors we're seeing could be perfectly logical. The 16-hour rotation could be a slow, steady scan, allowing its instruments to survey the surrounding space in a 360-degree sweep. The 4-hour positional shifts, these could be subtle station-keeping maneuvers. The probe might be using tiny, hyper-efficient thrusters to maintain a precise trajectory, to orient its sensors, or to adjust its course to get a better look at a particularly interesting planet in our solar system, like, for example, the one with all the flashing city lights and weird reality television shows. The 2-hour flashes of brightness are perhaps the most intriguing part. This could be the probe actively communicating. The flashes could be bursts of data being sent to a relay station or back to its home system, a cosmic Morse code blinking across the void. Or it could be a simpler, more passive function. If the probe is powered by a star, the flashes might be the glint of its solar panels reorienting themselves to catch the optimal amount of sunlight, a perfectly timed maneuver synchronized with its internal systems. Another possibility is that this isn't just one probe, but part of a much larger network. Imagine a vast, galactic internet, a web of automated relay stations scattered across millions of star systems. These stations wouldn't need to be massive. They could be small, quiet, and designed to do one thing: receive a signal from one probe and boost it onward to the next. In this model, 3i Atlas might not be here to study us specifically. It could just be passing through, using our sun's gravity for a slingshot maneuver to save fuel on its way to its next destination, and its regular flashes could be a simple handshake signal, letting the rest of its network know its status. All systems nominal, en route to the next checkpoint. This idea is both humbling and strangely comforting. It suggests that the cosmos might be buzzing with information, a great, silent conversation happening all around us, in a language we have not yet learned to speak. Let's consider a more defensive or cautious model. An advanced civilization might be wary of making direct contact. They might have their own version of the Prime Directive, a rule against interfering with younger, less developed worlds like ours. So, they send out probes designed for stealth and passive observation. Oumuamua, with its dark, non-reflective surface and silent acceleration, fits this profile perfectly. It might have been a flyby probe, designed to get in, gather as much data as possible without being too conspicuous, and then get out, using a light sail to accelerate away silently. 3I Atlas, with its more active and obvious behavior, could be a different type of probe, one that operates on the outskirts of a system. Its flashes and maneuvers might be less about talking to us, and more about activities related to its own internal functions, which it isn't bothering to hide because it's so far away. But let's push the speculation a little further into more fantastical, yet still logical, territory. What if these objects aren't just for reconnaissance? What if they are seeds? The concept of a von Neumann probe is a fascinating thought experiment. This is a type of self-replicating spacecraft. It would travel to a new star system, use the local resources asteroids, gas from a planet's atmosphere to build copies of itself, and then send those copies onward to other star systems. In this way, a civilization could explore and colonize the entire galaxy exponentially, without ever having to leave their home world. The regular, clockwork-like behavior of 3I Atlas, the harmonic precision of its movements, it has the feel of a complex machine carrying out a programmed set of instructions. Could it be in a preparatory phase, scanning our system for the right raw materials to begin a replication cycle? It's a chilling thought, but also an awe-inspiring one, a vision of life propagating itself through engineering on a cosmic scale. And now, for all the beautiful minds in the audience who have made it this far into the rabbit hole with me, let me offer you a little token of my appreciation. While I can't send you a self-replicating alien probe, I can invite you to be part of our growing spaceship of explorers. By clicking that join button and becoming a member, you get access to our private Discord, where we continue these conversations long after the live stream ends. It's our own little relay station of curiosity. Finally, there's the most humbling possibility of all. What if these objects have nothing to do with us? What if we are so profoundly uninteresting on a cosmic scale that their mission is something we can't even comprehend? Perhaps 3I Atlas is a terraforming machine on a multi-million-year mission to prepare a distant, barren world for life. Maybe it's a cosmic shepherd, a probe designed to gently nudge rogue comets or asteroids away from life-bearing planets in a distant, protected system. Or perhaps its function is so alien that we don't even have the words for it. It might be studying dark matter, charting gravitational anomalies, or servicing a piece of galactic-scale engineering we can't even see. We could be like ants in a jungle, watching a piece of advanced scientific equipment being carried through the canopy, and assuming it must be some kind of new, shiny beetle. We might be completely misinterpreting its purpose because we are seeing it through the limited lens of our own technology and our own priorities. Whatever its mission, the clockwork precision of 3I Atlas gives it an air of intention. It moves like something that has a job to do. For now, we are left only to watch, to gather data, and to wonder. We are the natives on the shore, watching a strange ship sail into our harbor, a ship whose origins and purpose are a complete and total mystery. It may be a peaceful explorer. It may be a piece of a larger, indifferent machine. It may even be, as some have whispered, something more ominous. In the next part, we will explore the more fantastical theories, including the idea of a ghost probe or a warning signal. The mystery, my friends, is only deepening. We've explored the logical, almost clinical, possibilities for what 3I Atlas might be. A reconnaissance drone, a network relay, even a self-replicating von Neumann probe. These are the kinds of concepts that a physicist like Avi Loeb might cautiously entertain, grounded in the principles of engineering and resourcefulness. But the human imagination, and indeed the history of our storytelling, has always been drawn to ideas that are a little wilder, a little more poignant, and sometimes a little more terrifying. Let's now wade into the deeper, more speculative waters and consider some of the more fantastical but still thought-provoking theories about our mysterious visitor. First, let's consider the haunting idea of a ghost probe. What if 3I Atlas and Oumuamua are not active explorers from a thriving civilization, but relics? What if they are the last, silent echoes of a civilization that has long since vanished? Imagine a society, billions of years ago, facing its own mortality. Perhaps their star was dying, their planet was becoming uninhabitable, or they faced some other existential catastrophe. In their final days, with a kind of desperate, hopeful foresight, they launched their greatest creations into the cosmos. Not as conquerors, but as messengers, as time capsules. These probes would be their legacy, their way of saying, "We were here, we lived, we wondered." In this scenario, the regular, clockwork-like behavior of 3I Atlas might not be a sign of an active, thinking intelligence, but the ghostly repetition of a pre-programmed mission, a song set on an eternal loop. The 16-hour spin, the 4-hour thrust, the 2-hour flash all could be the last, functioning remnants of a machine whose creators are nothing more than dust. The probe isn't observing us. It's simply following a set of instructions it was given an eternity ago. Its internal clock still ticking with perfect, lonely precision. The flashes of light might not be a message to anyone, but an automated, "I'm still here" signal, blinking into a void that no longer has anyone listening at the other end. This idea is both profoundly sad and strangely beautiful. It would mean that we are not alone in the universe, but we may be alone in our time. It would suggest that intelligence may rise and fall like the stars themselves, leaving behind only these elegant, drifting monuments to its existence. It turns 3I Atlas from a potential threat or a scientific peer into something more akin to an archaeological find, a cosmic Tutankhamun's tomb, filled with the technological ghosts of a forgotten empire. Oumuamua, the silent light sail, could have been another such artifact, a different model from a different era, its mission long completed, now just a piece of cosmic driftwood on the currents of space-time. Now let's flip the emotional script and consider a more dramatic possibility. What if 3I Atlas is not a relic, but a warning? The idea of a sentinel probe is a classic trope of science fiction, but it's rooted in a certain grim logic. If a civilization is aware of a recurring galaxy-wide threat, perhaps a natural phenomenon like a gamma-ray burst, or a more menacing, predatory technological force, they might send out automated beacons to warn younger, emerging civilizations. Beware. The signal might say, "Something dangerous is out there. Prepare yourselves." In this case, the highly periodic nature of 3I Atlas's signals takes on a more urgent meaning. A regular repeating pattern is the universal calling card for an artificial signal. The 2-hour flash could be a deliberate, mathematical message, perhaps encoded with prime numbers, or a simple pictorial language, just as we did with the Arecibo message we sent out into space in 1974. The object's close pass through our solar system might be no accident at all, but a deliberate flyby designed to get our attention. It might have detected the radio signals and atmospheric changes of our technological society and determined that we had reached a stage of development where a warning was necessary. The 4-hour positional shifts could be its way of stabilizing itself, turning its transmitter to face us with maximum clarity. It's a chilling thought. Is it saying hello, or is it saying duck? And before we go any further, I just want to give a massive thank you to everyone in the chat, the super chatters, the new members, all of you. The energy and intelligence you bring to these discussions is what makes this channel what it is. It's not just a broadcast, it's a real-time collaboration of curious minds, and I'm deeply grateful for every one of you. Let's entertain one final, even stranger idea, one that connects to the very heart of the channel you're watching now. The channel's name, Dasonia. It has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? It feels like it could be a place, a star system, a civilization? What if 3i Atlas is something far more bizarre than a simple probe or a sentinel? What if it is a terraforming machine, a kind of planetary seed, an automated biological and geological factory designed to travel to a barren but potentially habitable world, and then, over millennia, slowly transform it? It could release tailored microbes into the atmosphere, build essential compounds, and gently nudge the climate until the planet is ready to support more complex life. Its mission would not be one of communication or conquest, but of gardening on a cosmic scale. A civilization that has mastered its own biology might see it as a sacred duty to spread the gift of life throughout the galaxy. In this view, 3i Atlas might be making a close pass of our system not to observe us, but to observe Earth. It might be analyzing our biosphere, gathering data on a successful life-bearing planet to refine its own programming for its ultimate destination. Its regular movements could be part of an incredibly detailed, multispectral scan of our world. This idea is perhaps the most awe-inspiring of all. It would imply a universe where intelligence does not just explore, but creates. A cosmos where life actively begets more life. It would turn 3i Atlas into a kind of robotic Noah's Ark, a vessel carrying not animals, but the very potential for a new genesis. A ghost. A warning. A seed. These are the more fantastical stories we can weave around the data we have. Are any of them true? It's impossible to say. But the fact that the data allows for such stories to be told without completely breaking the laws of physics is what makes this moment so electrifying. For the first time, the possibility that we are not alone is not just a philosophical dream, but a question being posed by actual, observable data arriving in our solar system right now. In the next piece, we'll come back down to Earth and talk about the search. What are we actively doing to find out more? And what are the frustrating roadblocks like a certain government shutdown that are standing in our way? So, we're faced with a mystery of cosmic proportions, an object exhibiting behaviors so strange they invite both rigorous scientific scrutiny and the wildest of imaginative leaps. The natural question on any good detective's mind is, what are we doing about it? If there's a strange, unidentified craft in our harbor, you'd expect every pair of binoculars and every listening device to be trained on it. We live in an age of unprecedented technological capability. With powerful telescopes on every continent and satellites that can see a dime on the ground from orbit, surely, we must be throwing everything we've got at 3i Atlas to figure out what it is. Right? Well, that's where the story takes a frustrating, almost comical, and deeply suspicious turn. The search, as it stands, is being hampered, and in some cases, completely stonewalled. And it all seems to revolve around a series of unfortunate coincidences that feel less like bad luck and more like a very carefully managed information blackout. Let's start with what should be our greatest asset, our eyes and ears on the ground and in space. The first and most obvious way to study 3i Atlas would be to get a high-resolution photograph of it. Forget the blurry smudges and the pixelated blobs. We need a clear, detailed picture. The Hubble Space Telescope could certainly try, but the best tool for the job is already in the perfect location: Mars. The high-rise camera aboard NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter is one of the most powerful imaging instruments ever sent into space. It's designed to take breathtakingly detailed pictures of the Martian surface, but it can also be aimed at the sky. From its orbit around Mars, HiRISE would have a unique and often clearer vantage point to observe 3i Atlas as it makes its close pass, free from the interference of Earth's atmosphere. Those pictures exist. Let me be clear, NASA has them. But can we see them? No. And the official reason is the one that has become a punchline in this whole saga: the government shutdown. Conveniently, the ongoing shutdown has meant that many non-essential government operations, including the public release of data from NASA, have been halted. So, the highest resolution images we have of the most important astronomical object of our lifetime are sitting on a server somewhere, locked away behind a door of political gridlock. Avi Loeb himself has commented on this. He's noted that several university teams have the data but are not allowed to release it to the public because of the shutdown. You have to ask yourself, they can't find a way to pay the handful of people it would take to upload a JPEG file of a potentially alien spaceship? It beggars belief. It feels less like a bureaucratic hurdle and more like a deliberate, buy us some time maneuver. It's the cosmic equivalent of, let me get my story straight before I talk to the press. Then there's the other great method of investigation: listening. If 3i Atlas is a piece of technology, it might be emitting radio signals, either for communication, for its own internal systems, or as leakage from a propulsion system. Organizations like the SETI Institute, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, have powerful radio telescopes, like the Allen Telescope Array, designed for this very purpose, to scan the skies for any artificial, non-random signals, and you can be sure they are listening to 3i Atlas. However, the public release of that data is another matter. Unlike photographic images, radio data is incredibly complex and filled with noise from both earthly and cosmic sources. Sifting through it for a single, faint, artificial signal is like trying to hear a single person's whisper in the middle of a roaring football stadium. Any potential signal would have to be painstakingly verified, cross-checked against databases of known terrestrial and satellite signals, and confirmed by multiple observatories to rule out interference. This process takes time, and you can be sure it would be done with the utmost secrecy until a discovery was undeniable. We wouldn't hear a whisper about it until they were ready to make an official announcement. And, let's be honest, given the potential implications, that announcement would have to be approved by a whole lot of people wearing very serious suits. Let's pause here and welcome our new super explorers. A huge thank you for your support. People like you are the fuel for this mission, the reason we can stay independent and ask these questions without having to answer to any boss or corporate overlord. I'm deeply, genuinely grateful. So, on one hand, we have photographic evidence that is being actively withheld. On the other, we have radio surveillance that is likely happening in a black box, shielded from public view. What's left for us, the independent observers? There is the astronomical community itself, the very people who brought us this discovery in the first place. You have to believe that right now, every astronomer with access to a powerful enough telescope is reanalyzing their data, scrambling to get new observations, and communicating with their colleagues through forums like the Astronomer's Telegram. The paper from Medvedev and Pavlov wasn't a final statement. It was a shot fired across the bow. A declaration to the scientific world that something very strange is happening and it needs immediate attention. The fact that they published it on such a public, rapid-release forum, instead of waiting months to go through a traditional, peer-reviewed journal, tells you they understood the urgency of the moment. They were raising a flag. And here, in our own small corner of the internet, we have been doing our own brand of observation. I've pointed my solar telescope in the direction of 3i Atlas, a somewhat unorthodox method, but one that allows us to look into the glare of the sun where other telescopes would be blinded. And we have seen anomalies, fleeting points of light, weird, stingray-like shapes, things that appear, disappear. Are they definitive proof of a spaceship? Of course not. They are strange data points, inconclusive but tantalizing, a tiny piece of a puzzle that we are trying to solve with the limited tools we have. What is important is not that we have the final answer, but that we are asking the question and daring to look for ourselves. The current situation is a frustrating one. The best data is under lock and key. The world's governments are either silent or are issuing suspiciously calming, nothing to see here statements. The scientific community is buzzing behind the scenes, but the public is being fed a trickle of information, a carefully managed narrative. This is why independent observation and critical thinking are more important than ever. We must continue to follow the work of credible scientists like Loeb, Medvedev, and Pavlov. We must continue to question the official story when it doesn't fit the facts, and we must continue to share information and observations within communities like this one. In the next part, we're going to dive into the truly strange landscape of coincidences and weird events that have surrounded this entire affair, from the wow signal to the discovery of life on Mars to a certain suspicious meeting near Quantico. When you line them all up, the picture starts to look even more deliberate. This isn't just a single mystery. It's a cascade of them, all happening at once. A single anomaly can be an accident. Two can be a coincidence. But when you start getting 3, 4, 5 or more, all pointing in the same eerie direction, you're no longer looking at a series of unfortunate events. You're looking at a trail of breadcrumbs. The story of 3I Atlas isn't just happening in a vacuum. It is unfolding against a backdrop of some of the most profound and strangely timed coincidences in the history of science and politics. Let's step back from the object itself and look at the bigger picture. When you connect these dots, the resulting image is, to put it mildly, deeply suspicious. Shown. Wow. Signal synchronicity. Let's start with a cosmic echo. Back in 1977, the Big Ear radio telescope at Ohio State University detected a powerful, narrow-band radio signal that lasted for 72 seconds. It was so striking, so unlike any natural cosmic noise, that the astronomer on duty, Jerry Eman, circled it on the printout and wrote "Wow" beside it. The signal came from the direction of the constellation Sagittarius. For decades, it has remained the single strongest candidate for a genuine extraterrestrial communication ever detected. We have never heard it again. But here's the spine-tingling part. The origin point of the "wow" signal on the sky is remarkably close to the region where 3I Atlas is now making its closest pass through our inner solar system. Now, is this a direct link? No, we can't say that. But for our second major interstellar anomaly to be putting on its strange clockwork show in the very same cosmic neighborhood as our most famous "hello" from the universe is a coincidence of astronomical proportions. It's like finding a mysterious, coded letter on the same street corner where a spy vanished 40 years earlier. It doesn't prove a connection, but it makes the story a whole lot more interesting. #2. The pre-game announcement, microbial life on Mars. Just before 3I Atlas became the talk of the town, what was the biggest space news story on the planet? The confirmed discovery of microbial life on Mars. For the first time in history, NASA, in a rather subdued and carefully worded press conference, admitted that they had found clear evidence of methanogen's simple, methane-producing microbes in the Martian soil. This is a monumental, civilization-altering discovery in its own right. Yet, the timing feels strategic. It's almost as if the powers that be were gently preparing the global public for a paradigm shift. They were acclimating us to the idea that life exists beyond Earth, starting with something small, simple, and non-threatening. A microbe. It's the perfect soft disclosure, the opening act before the main event. Is it a coincidence that the first ever confirmation of extraterrestrial life happened just as an object exhibiting artificial behavior was sailing into our prime observational window? Maybe. But in the world of intelligence and public relations, you don't drop two bombshells this big by accident. You stage them. #3. NASA becomes an intelligence agency. This is another one of those bureaucratic shuffles that went largely unnoticed by the public, but is hugely significant. In recent times, NASA's administrative structure was altered, placing it more firmly under the umbrella of the national intelligence community. This might sound like a boring procedural change, but its implications are massive. It means that what was once primarily a civilian science agency, with a mandate for public transparency, now operates with the protocols and secrecy of an intelligence organization. Data can be more easily classified. Discoveries can be more effectively controlled. It gives the government a perfectly legal and institutional framework to keep a tight lid on anything deemed sensitive. Like, for instance, a confirmed alien probe. Again, the timing is remarkable. This restructuring was put in place before the current 3i Atlas drama kicked into high gear. It's as if they knew they might need a better system for keeping cosmic secrets. And now, a special welcome to our latest crew members. It's fantastic to have you here. This spaceship is fueled by curiosity, and it looks like our tanks are getting pretty full. Don't forget that every little bit of support, whether it's a super chat, a membership, or just a click on that like button, helps us continue this independent journey, free from any outside narrative. I am, and will always be, just a simple citizen of the world, with a telescope, answering to no one but the truth and this incredible community. #4. The Quantico meeting. This one is a little deeper into the weeds, but it's a stunner. Some time ago, a highly unusual, off-the-books meeting was reported to have taken place near Quantico, Virginia, a location synonymous with top-level US government and intelligence agencies. The attendees were a mix of high-ranking officials and, curiously, a select group of astrophysicists and radio astronomers. The unofficial topic: procedures for the analysis and disclosure of signals of non-terrestrial origin. More bizarrely still, this secret meeting took place a mere 54 kilometers from the Green Bank Observatory, home of the telescope that took over from the Big Ear. The very telescope now used to scan the sky for signals like the "wow" signal. The coincidence is almost comical in its audacity. They're holding a secret meeting about how to handle an alien signal, right next door to the giant ear they're using to listen for that very signal. You can't make this stuff up. It's like a scene from a movie that would be rejected for being too on the nose. #5, the nickel-rich, iron-poor anomaly. Let's go back to the object itself. We've talked about its movement and its flashes, but we haven't talked about its composition. We can't get a direct sample, of course, but by analyzing the faint light it reflects, we can get hints about what it's made of spectroscopy. And what the early spectra showed was another glaring anomaly: an abundance of nickel with an unusually low amount of iron. In the natural world of asteroids and comets, iron and nickel are like cosmic best friends. They almost always appear together in specific, predictable ratios because they're forged in the same stellar processes. Finding a chunk of nickel with almost no iron is like finding a peanut butter sandwich with no jelly. It's unnatural. It suggests an alloy, something processed and manufactured. It suggests industry. This was one of the early red flags that Oumuamua raised, and 3i Atlas is showing similar, though still being analyzed, compositional weirdness. So, let's lay the cards on the table. We have a strange signal from the past in the same location. We have a perfectly timed, soft disclosure of life on Mars. We have a governmental restructuring that allows for greater secrecy. We have a secret meeting of the world's most relevant experts next to the world's most relevant instrument, and we have the objects themselves showing unnatural compositions. My friends, this is not a series of accidents. This is a pattern of controlled information, strategic preparation, and profound scientific anomalies. We may be the fringe YouTubers, the conspiracy theorists in our basements, but right now, we are the ones connecting the dots that the people in charge are desperately hoping we will ignore. In the next part, we'll discuss what could possibly be next, what November might bring, and why, despite all this strangeness, picking a side in this debate is still the biggest mistake we can make. Stay observant. So, with a trail of cosmic breadcrumbs and a file full of suspicious coincidences, where do we go from here? The data is tantalizing, the official silence is deafening, and the speculation is running wild. The immediate future, particularly the month of November, holds the promise of better, clearer observations as 3i Atlas moves into a more favorable position for our telescopes. But it's also a time filled with a frustrating sense of anticipation, a waiting game where we are beholden to forces far outside our control, from the stubborn realities of celestial mechanics to the even more stubborn realities of government bureaucracy. And it is in this waiting period that we face our greatest challenge as independent observers: the temptation to choose a side. Let's talk about November. As 3i Atlas continues on its path, it will move into a part of the sky where, for a time, we will be able to get a better look at it. free from the overwhelming glare of the Sunday. This window of opportunity is what every astronomer, professional and amateur alike is waiting for. If nothing strange happens and the object continues on its predicted trajectory, this will be our best chance to get high-quality images from Earth-based observatories. We might finally get a spectrum clear enough to settle the question of its composition. We might get light curves detailed enough to build a 3D model of its shape. We might even, just maybe, see a tail. And I say that with all the weight it deserves. The tail is the single biggest obsession of the mainstream narrative. They are banking on it. Their entire natural comet theory hinges on the hope that as 3I Atlas gets closer to the Sun, it will finally heat up enough to start sublimating in a big, obvious way. They are crossing their fingers for a glorious, beautiful, and most importantly, explanation-providing tail to emerge. You can almost hear them chanting it in their sleep. Tail, tail, tail. Because if that tail appears, they can say, "See? We told you so. It was a comet all along. It was just a little shy." And a wave of collective, comfortable relief will wash over the world. People will go back to their boring jobs, reassured that the universe is just as predictable as they thought, and we, the wide-eyed speculators, will be quietly told to go back to our basements. But what if it doesn't? What if November comes and goes, and 3I Atlas remains a clean, crisp, tailless object, still performing its perfect 4-hour shimmies and 2-hour flashes? That's when things get truly interesting. That's when the weird comet theory officially runs out of road. They will have no more excuses, no more "just wait a little longer" get-out clauses. The lack of a tail, at that point, becomes a definitive piece of evidence, and it will force a scientific reckoning that will be fascinating to watch. This is where the human element, our own psychology, comes into play. It is incredibly tempting, in the face of such a profound mystery, to pick a team. There's Team Alien Probe, and there's Team Natural Comet. Team Alien Probe is thrilling, world-changing, and feels like the climax of every science fiction movie we've ever loved. Team Natural Comet is safe, rational, and fits comfortably within our existing understanding of the universe. And in communities like this one, it's easy for us all to huddle together on Team Alien Probe, cheering for every new anomaly and booing every skeptical explanation. But I'm going to tell you something that might sound strange. That is a trap. The moment you become a believer, you stop being an observer. The moment you are 100% convinced it is a ship, your brain starts to do a funny thing. It begins to filter the evidence. You'll amplify the data that supports your belief and downplay the data that challenges it. This is called confirmation bias, and it is the greatest enemy of any true detective. It's what allows smart people to believe in fantastically wrong ideas on both sides of this debate. The mainstream scientists who are desperately trying to invent a magic tailless comet are in the grip of confirmation bias, but we, on our side, are just as vulnerable to it. My approach, and the one I encourage for everyone here, is to be a passionate agnostic, to remain fiercely open-minded. Right now, do I think it's more likely to be artificial than natural? Yes, absolutely. The evidence of periodicity, the lack of a tail, the harmonic relationship, it all points that way. My personal percentage, if I had to put one on it, is leaning heavily toward alien, but I have to be mentally prepared for that percentage to change. I have to be ready for a beautiful, glorious tail to appear in November, and for a very clever, very reasonable scientific paper to be published, explaining how a binary nucleus can do all these things. If that happens, I will be the first one to stand here, on this live stream, and say, well, my friends, it looks like it was a rock after all. A very, very weird rock, but a rock. And there is no shame in that. There is only integrity. A huge welcome to our newest explorers. It's an honor to have you join our mission. As we navigate these strange cosmic waters, it's the collective brainpower and curiosity of this crew that keeps our ship on course. Your support means the world. To be an observer is not to have all the answers, it is to have all the questions. Our job is not to prove that it's alien. Our job is to rigorously test the hypothesis that it is natural. And right now, that hypothesis is failing the test. It requires too many exceptions, too many just so conditions, too many inventions of new physics, but we must keep testing it, with every new piece of data. This is how we avoid becoming the mirror image of the very dogmatism we criticize. They have their rigid beliefs. We cannot afford to have our own. So, as we wait for November, as we watch the skies and monitor the news feeds, let's make a pact. Let's be the community that follows the evidence, wherever it leads. Let's be excited by the possibility of an extraordinary discovery, but not be blinded by it. Let's celebrate the weirdness. Let's demand the data from NASA. Let's question the official silence. But let's also keep our own minds open. Because in the end, the truth is more important than being right. The universe is what it is, whether that fits our favorite theory or not. This journey is about discovery, not about winning a debate. In the next piece, we'll dive into a very practical question. If this is a machine, why hasn't it tried to contact us? Why the silent treatment? We'll explore the chilling logic of the dark forest theory and other reasons why a visitor to our system might choose to stay very, very quiet. Let's venture, just for a moment, deep into the heart of Team Alien Probe. Let's assume, for the sake of this thrilling thought experiment, that 3I Atlas is what the evidence seems to be screaming it is. An artificial object, a piece of technology from another civilization. The moment we accept that premise, a profound and deeply unsettling question immediately arises. Why is it so quiet? If an advanced intelligence has sent a craft into our solar system, a craft that is clearly maneuvering and signaling with clockwork precision, why hasn't it tried to say hello? Why no radio message, no grand "we come in peace" broadcast, no friendly text to see if we're free for a coffee? This cosmic silence is, in many ways, even weirder than the object's movement. The absence of an obvious communication signal from an object that appears to be communicating with something is a paradox. Those 2-hour flashes of brightness, if they are intentional signals, are not aimed at us in any language we can understand. This suggests one of several possibilities, ranging from the mundane to the utterly chilling. The first and simplest explanation is that we're simply not that interesting to them. It's a humbling thought, but a logical one. Let's go back to the idea of a network relay probe. Its job might simply be to pass along data from other parts of the galaxy. Its pass through our solar system could be entirely incidental, a convenient gravitational slingshot on its way to somewhere else. It's not ignoring us, it's just busy. Its communications are on a closed network, a private conversation between machines. To it, we might be as relevant as the ants on the sidewalk are to a technician laying fiber optic cable. The technician isn't trying to be rude to the ants, they're just on completely different layers of existence, with completely different priorities. The craft might have logged our presence, Class M planet, carbon-based life, noisy radio spectrum, currently obsessed with cat videos, and filed it away in a subfolder marked Local Curiosities, before getting back to its primary mission. Another possibility is that it is trying to communicate, but we're just too primitive to hear it. Imagine trying to explain the internet to a Roman legionary. You could send him Wi-Fi signals all day, but all he would see is empty air. Our entire paradigm for interstellar communication is based on radio waves, a technology that is barely a century old. An advanced civilization might be using a technology we haven't even conceived of yet. They could be communicating with modulated gravity waves, entangled quantum particles, or by sending signals through other dimensions. They could be shouting at us at the top of their cosmic lungs, but we haven't invented the right kind of ears to hear them. We are listening for drum beats in a universe that might be communicating through telepathy. Our silence may not be their choice, but a consequence of our own technological infancy. And for all the amazing new explorers who just joined our spaceship, a huge welcome. This is the kind of mind-bending question we love to tackle here. If you're enjoying this journey into the unknown, you're in the right place. Don't be shy. Now, Let's turn to a much darker and more strategically sound reason for the silence. This is a concept made famous in the science fiction masterpiece, The Three-Body Problem, by Cixin Liu. It's called the dark forest theory. It's a grim but chillingly logical answer to the Fermi paradox, the question of why we haven't seen any evidence of aliens if the universe is so vast. The dark forest theory posits that the universe is like a dark forest filled with countless hunters. Every civilization is a hunter, and their primary goal is to survive. In this forest, there are two fundamental axioms of civilization. First, survival is the primary need of any civilization. Second, civilizations continuously grow and expand, but the total matter in the universe remains constant. This creates a state of eternal, zero-sum competition. Because of the immense distances between stars, it's impossible to know another civilization's true intentions or its level of technology. Are they friendly? Are they hostile? Can you trust them? By the time you find out, it might be too late. The light from their star may be telling you what they were like 1,000,000 years ago. But in that time, they could have developed weapons that could annihilate you instantly. Therefore, in a dark forest, what is the safest strategy for any hunter who becomes aware of another? It is not to say, hello. The moment you reveal your position, you expose yourself to a potential threat you can't possibly understand. The only truly safe strategy is to remain silent and, if you detect another hunter, to eliminate them before they can eliminate you. It's a cosmic shoot first, ask questions never policy. In this terrifying but logical framework, any civilization that foolishly broadcasts its existence into the universe is like a child naively shouting in the dark forest, "I'm here," and sooner or later, a hunter hears them and eliminates the threat. If this is the rule of the galactic game, then the silence we see in the cosmos is the silence of hunters holding their breath. The reason we haven't seen aliens is because the smart ones know better than to make any noise. In this context, 3I Atlas's behavior makes perfect sense. It could be a hunter's probe, a silent and deadly reconnaissance drone. It would pass through our system, gathering intelligence, its internal communications completely hidden from our primitive radio telescopes. It wouldn't contact us, because contacting us is a strategic blunder. Its job is simply to observe, to assess our technological level, our potential threat, and to report back. The 4-hour position shifts could be it carefully mapping our planetary defenses. The 2-hour flashes could be encrypted data bursts aimed at a hidden relay. Its presence would not be a friendly visit. It would be a cold and calculated assessment. We wouldn't be seeing a messenger. We would be seeing a scout. Now, that's a profoundly scary thought. But it's based on a kind of ruthless, game theory logic that is hard to dismiss entirely. The dark forest theory suggests that our own recent history of broadcasting our existence into space with radio, television, and SETI messages has been an act of breathtaking recklessness. We have been shouting our location into a forest that we do not understand. And now, perhaps, one of the hunters has come for a closer look. In the next part, we'll continue our exploration by looking at the work that I've personally been doing right here with this telescope to try and catch our own glimpse of this silent visitor. We'll review the strange things we've seen and speculate on what they might mean. While the world's most powerful observatories are either sitting on their data or wrapped up in bureaucratic red tape, we haven't been sitting on our hands here. For the past several weeks, on this very channel, you and I have been engaged in our own little guerrilla observation campaign. Using my solar telescope, a piece of gear designed specifically to look at our sun, we've been doing something that is a little crazy, a little unorthodox, and completely unprecedented. We have been pointing our telescope directly into the sun's glare to try and catch a glimpse of 3I Atlas as it makes its close pass. This is something, to my knowledge, that nobody else in the world is doing publicly. First, let's address the method, because I know some of you are asking, how can you possibly see anything in the blinding light of the sun? That's the beauty of a solar telescope. Unlike a regular telescope, which would be instantly and permanently damaged if pointed at the sun, A solar telescope is designed with special filters to block out almost all of the sun's overwhelming light. The primary filter it uses is a hydrogen alpha filter, which allows only a very specific, very narrow wavelength of reddish light, the light emitted by excited hydrogen gas, to pass through. This allows us to see the delicate, fiery structures of the sun's chromosphere, like prominences and flares, with incredible clarity. But it has an interesting side effect. By blocking out all the other light, it creates a high-contrast view where other objects, if they are reflecting or emitting in this specific wavelength, can sometimes be spotted. It's like putting on a pair of very specialized sunglasses that allow you to see a single color in a world of blinding white. Night after night, during these live streams, we have plugged in the coordinates for 3I Atlas, provided by NASA's own Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Yes, even during the shutdown, some essential services, like tracking potentially hazardous space objects, thankfully remain online. With those coordinates, we have aimed our telescope at the precise spot in the sky where the object should be, just to the side of the sun's blinding disk. We've done this live, with no edits, no Photoshop, just a raw feed from the camera to you. It's been an exercise in patience and pure observation, and we have not been disappointed. Several times now, we have captured anomalies in the frame. These are not specks of dust on my camera sensor. I have been meticulous about keeping it clean, and these objects appear, disappear, and move from one stream to the next. The most famous one, the one that this community has playfully nicknamed the Stingray or the Venom, was a bizarre, shifting, V-shaped object that appeared in the frame on multiple occasions. One day it was here, the next it was there, its shape subtly changing, its presence a complete and total mystery. Now, am I going to stand here and tell you that was a spaceship? No, I am not. I'm a simple citizen with a telescope in Portugal. I am showing you what the telescope shows me. It's data. Raw, unfiltered, weird data. In our last live stream, we saw it again, or something very much like it. It had shifted position once more, and other, smaller, equally strange points of light appeared and vanished around it. These are not stars. This telescope is designed to filter out the broadband light of stars. It only sees things that are intensely active in the hydrogen alpha line. For something to appear so clearly, it would either have to be incredibly hot, composed largely of hydrogen, or reflecting the sun's light in a very, very strange way. Now, the debunkers and skeptics, and we love them for keeping us honest, would say this is probably just a hot pixel on the camera sensor, a cosmic ray hit, or some form of atmospheric interference. But these explanations start to wear thin when the anomaly appears night after night, in different positions, and has a consistent, though shifting, shape. And let's not forget the recent images from the European Space Agency, which I was lucky enough to show you live the moment they were released. What did those pictures show? Not a stingray, but a collection of bright points of light arranged in an angular, almost geometric pattern, looking for all the world like the invaders from that classic arcade game. We joked about it, but the resemblance was uncanny. Those weren't my pixels. Those were from one of the most advanced space agencies on the planet. My own humble observations are just one, tiny, and admittedly inconclusive piece of this puzzle. But they add to the growing mountain of evidence that this object is not behaving as we would expect. The very fact that we are seeing anything at all in the sun's glare on this specific wavelength is an anomaly in itself. The mainstream isn't looking here. They are waiting for the object to move away from the sun before they point their conventional telescopes at it. But we, with our unorthodox approach, have been getting a sneak peek. This whole experience has been a testament to the power of independent, citizen science. And a massive thank you to everyone who has supported this journey. Every super chat, every new membership, like our newest super explorers who have joined us tonight, welcome, funds this exploration. It keeps the telescope running, it keeps the cameras on, and most importantly, it keeps this platform independent. This isn't a TV studio with a corporate budget. This is us, a global crew of observers, armed with curiosity. So, what have my observations proven? Nothing. Definitively. And I will never claim they have. But what they have done is provide another set of strange data points that do not fit the natural comet model. When you add my stingrays and the ESA's space invaders to the scientific confirmation of periodic positional shifts and flashes, the case file gets thicker and the natural explanation gets weaker. We have a duty to keep looking, to keep questioning, and to not be afraid of what we might find. It's the very spirit of science, a spirit that sometimes seems to be forgotten by those who are tasked with upholding it. They have their narratives to protect. We have only the truth to seek. In the next piece, we're going to talk about a question that has been popping up in the chat a lot. What happens next? We'll look at the timeline, the upcoming close approaches, and why the next few months could be the most important in human history. So, here we are, armed with a mountain of anomalous data, a chorus of suspicious coincidences, and a healthy, high-octane dose of skepticism for the official story. The board is set, the pieces are moving, and the one question buzzing in the minds of everyone in this community is, what happens next? What is the timeline? When will we know more? And, to be a little more dramatic about it, what are the key dates we should be circling on our cosmic calendars? The immediate future, as we've discussed, is all about that precious window of observation opening up in November. As 3I Atlas moves further along its trajectory, its position in our sky will drift away from the blinding glare of the sun, making it accessible to a much wider range of powerful, Earth-based and space-based telescopes. This is the moment the global astronomical community has been waiting for. The excuses about the shutdown, the arguments about solar interference, they all begin to fade. November is, in theory, when the floodgates of data should open. If the high-resolution images from HiRISE on Mars are still under lock and key, we can expect immense pressure to be put on every major observatory, from the Keck in Hawaii to the Very Large Telescope in Chile, to get us a clear picture. We're past the point of smudges and pixels. The world needs to see what this thing looks like, but the most critical date, the one that looms largest in the near future, is December 16th. On that day, 3I Atlas will make its closest approach to Earth. Now, it's crucial to understand what close means in astronomical terms. It will not be buzzing the planet like in a Hollywood movie. It will still be incredibly far away, many millions of kilometers. There is no direct impact threat from this object. Let me repeat that. This is not about a collision, but its point of closest approach is significant for two reasons. First, it's our absolute best opportunity for observation. The object will be at its largest and brightest in our sky, giving our instruments the best possible chance to analyze its shape, its spectrum, and its behavior. December 16th is our final exam on this object, and the whole world should be watching. The second reason is more speculative, but deeply logical if you're following the alien probe hypothesis. If you were piloting an advanced reconnaissance drone and your mission was to get the most detailed scan of a planet, you would program your flyby to pass as close as safely possible. The close approach in December isn't just a random orbital mechanic, it could be the focal point of the entire mission for 3I Atlas. This might be the moment it deploys something. This could be the moment it sends its most significant data burst. Or it could simply be the moment it gathers its most important intelligence on Earth's atmosphere, our technology, and our biology. If this is a ship with a purpose, December 16th is the day it's most likely to do its job. After its close pass with Earth, the story doesn't end. 3I Atlas will continue its journey through the solar system, but it will be on its way out. It will head back towards the outer solar system, its speed and trajectory now subtly altered by the gravitational nudges it received from the Sun and the inner planets. It will slowly fade from our view, shrinking back into a faint point of light, and eventually, it will disappear into the interstellar void, never to return. This is a one-time visitor, a fleeting messenger. We have one shot to get this right. This timeline puts an immense pressure on the scientific community and, frankly, on global governments. The current strategy of delay and reassure simply won't hold up as we get closer to these key dates. The questions from the public will get louder. The demand for the NASA images will become a roar, and the work of independent observers like Medvedev and Pavlov, and even our own small community here, will become more and more important. Now, I want to take a moment and give a massive shout out to the heart of this channel, the Dasonian Power members. People like you who support this channel directly are the reason we can stay on this story day after day without having to bow to any outside pressure. Your support is the engine of this spaceship, and I'm deeply grateful. For anyone who wants to come on board and join that core crew, the door is always open. There's another timeline running parallel to this one, a more ominous one that has been a topic of discussion in our community for a while. That is the 2027 asteroid impact forecast. We've discussed this before. Multiple space agencies, including those from China and Russia, have been remarkably quiet about a potential future impact threat. Is it a coincidence that all this is happening now, with 3I Atlas making its grand entrance just a few years before a potentially significant known threat is on the horizon? Could 3I Atlas be here to observe our response? Or could it be something even stranger? Could it be a solution, a kind of cosmic cleanup crew? It's wild speculation, but the timing is another one of those breadcrumbs that is hard to ignore. For now, our focus remains on the observable, on the data we have and the data we hope to get. The plan for this channel is simple. We will continue our nightly observations with the solar telescope as long as we can. We will monitor every official and unofficial source for new information. The moment those NASA pictures are released, or the moment a new, credible scientific paper drops, you will hear it here first. I will be here to break it down with you, to analyze it, to question it, and to put it in the context of everything we've learned so far. This is a story that is unfolding in real time, and we are privileged to be living through it. We are not passive spectators. We are active observers. In the next part, we will discuss a question that I get asked more than any other. We'll talk about how you, as a member of this global crew of detectives, can contribute to the search, how you can stay informed, and how your own observations, your own thoughts, can be a part of this historic moment. Don't go anywhere. So, in the midst of this cosmic saga, a question I see over and over in our chat, a question buzzing with a mix of excitement, anxiety, and a profound desire to participate is, what can we do? We're a community of observers, detectives, and passionate agnostics, not professional astronomers with access to billion-dollar telescopes. We feel like we're on the sidelines, watching a game played by giants. But that feeling, I'm here to tell you, is an illusion. You are not on the sidelines. You are on the field. The role of the independent, critical thinking citizen has never been more important than it is right now. First and foremost, the most powerful tool you have is your voice, amplified by the digital world we live in. The single biggest roadblock to understanding 3I Atlas is the information blackout. The pictures from the high-rise camera are real, they are on a server, and they are being withheld. We need to collectively and respectfully make a deafening amount of noise about this. This isn't about spamming NASA with angry emails. That's counterproductive. This is about making the conversation so loud that it becomes impossible to ignore. Talk about it on social media. Use hashtags like #release-the-high-res images or #show-use 3I Atlas. Share the work of credible scientists like Avi Loeb and the paper from Medvedev and Pavlov. Engage in reasoned, evidence-based discussions in online forums. The goal is to shift the public narrative from "it's a boring rock" to "there is a profound scientific mystery happening right now, and the public has a right to see the data." When the demand becomes overwhelming, the political pressure to release the images will mount. Your voice is a form of leverage. Use it. Second, become an expert in spotting disinformation. As we get closer to November and December, and as the public interest in 3I Atlas grows, you can be sure that the internet will be flooded with fake images, bogus leaks, and wildly inaccurate claims from people seeking to either muddy the waters or just get clicks. Our community has to be a fortress of critical thinking. Before you share a bombshell image or a new claim, ask yourself a few simple questions. Who is the source? Is this a credible scientific institution or a random TikTok account? Does this image look too perfect, too much like a sci-fi movie? Can I find this same information from multiple, independent, and reliable sources? We have to be the signal, not the noise. Be skeptical, be rigorous, and when you see fake news, call it out calmly and with evidence. Protecting the integrity of our own investigation is a vital task. Now, let's talk about something more hands-on. Many of you are amateur astronomers or have access to telescopes. While it is true that a backyard telescope can't compete with Hubble, it is also true that the collective power of thousands of small telescopes is a force to be reckoned with. The professional observatories are focused on getting a few incredibly high-quality data points. The amateur community can provide something just as valuable: constant, wide-field monitoring. Organizations like the AAVSO, American Association of Variable Star Observers, have shown for decades how networks of amateur astronomers can contribute invaluable data to science. We can do the same here. As 3i Atlas moves into a better viewing position, start observing it if you can. Record your observations. Note any changes in brightness, any strange behavior. Share your findings within our community, Discord, and on other amateur astronomy forums. Your one small observation, when combined with hundreds of others from around the world, can help to build a more complete, continuous picture of the object's behavior. A professional might look once a week. We can look every night. A massive thank you to our incredible Dasonian Power members. It's your support that keeps our servers running and our telescopes pointed at the sky. For our new explorers who've just joined the mission, your energy is what will carry us through the exciting months ahead. I'm truly humbled to have such a brilliant crew on board. Beyond the sky, keep your eyes on the ground. Pay attention to what's happening in the world around you. We've talked about the strange coincidences surrounding this event. Keep looking for more. Are there unusual political announcements? Strange shifts in the media narrative? Reports of increased military activity or unusual atmospheric phenomena? This isn't about becoming a conspiracy theorist who sees aliens behind every bush. It's about being a good intelligence analyst, looking for patterns and connections that others might miss. Sometimes the most important clue isn't in space, but in how the powers that be are behaving right here on Earth. Their actions, or inactions, can tell us a lot about what they know and what they fear. And finally, and perhaps most importantly, do not give in to fear. The narrative around events like this can very easily be hijacked by fear-mongering. You'll see videos with terrifying thumbnails, headlines screaming about imminent doom, and commentators trying to whip people into a panic. Panic is the enemy of reason. We are observers. We are detectives. Our strength is in our calm, rational, and evidence-based approach. The data we have suggests 3i Atlas is, at the very least, a profound scientific mystery, and at the most, a piece of extraterrestrial technology. Neither of those is, in itself, a reason to panic. It is a reason for awe, for wonder, for excitement, and for intense, focused curiosity. Whatever happens, we will face it together, with open minds and a commitment to the truth. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and stay brave. Your role in this is to think, and that is the most powerful thing you can possibly do. In the next part, we're going to dive into the sheer, mind-boggling technological superiority that an object like this would represent, to truly appreciate the civilization that could have built it. Let's take a step back from the immediate mystery of 3i Atlas's mission and allow ourselves a moment of profound and, frankly, humbling awe. If we are indeed looking at a piece of extraterrestrial technology, we are not just looking at a ship from another world. We are looking at a machine that represents a level of engineering, energy management, and material science so far beyond our own that we are like children with wooden toys, suddenly confronted with a fusion-powered supercomputer. The technological gap is not just a matter of degrees. It is a chasm that spans millennia, perhaps even millions of years, of scientific and industrial evolution. First, consider the journey itself. 3i Atlas is an interstellar object. It has traveled from another star system, across the vast and unforgiving ocean of the void. We have calculated that for our own fastest probes, a similar journey to the nearest star would take 75,000 years. This object has likely traveled much, much farther than that, for a period of time that could be millions of years. This implies a level of endurance in its materials and systems that is almost magical to us. Our own deep space probes, like the Voyagers, are already fading, their power sources dying after a mere 50 years. 3. Atlas has likely been traveling for a period that is longer than the entire existence of the human species, and it is still functioning with clockwork precision. The materials it is made of would have to be self-healing, incredibly resistant to radiation, and capable of withstanding the constant micrometeoroid impacts and temperature extremes of interstellar space. We can't even make a phone that lasts for 5 years. This civilization has built a machine that can last for 5 million. Next, let's talk about power. An object that is performing regular 4-hour positional shifts is using propulsion. It is using energy. For a journey lasting millennia, a conventional chemical rocket is out of the question. You simply can't carry enough fuel. This means 3I Atlas must be powered by a source of energy that is, to us, still theoretical. Is it a hyper-efficient form of nuclear fission or fusion, a reactor so advanced it can run for geological ages on a small amount of fuel? Is it harnessing vacuum energy, the strange quantum fluctuations of empty space, a concept that is at the bleeding edge of our own theoretical physics? Or is it something even more elegant? Perhaps it has a bussard ramjet, a system that would scoop up the sparse hydrogen atoms of interstellar space and use them as fuel in a fusion reactor, literally living off the land of the cosmos. Whatever the source, it is a form of power generation that is clean, incredibly long-lasting, and powerful enough to maneuver a large object with pinpoint precision. This isn't just a better battery. This is a completely different paradigm of energy. Then there is the intelligence of the machine itself. An unmanned probe on a million-year journey cannot be remotely controlled. The light-speed delays are too great. This means 3I Atlas must be fully autonomous. It must be running on an artificial intelligence so advanced that it can navigate, self-diagnose, self-repair, and make complex decisions in response to unforeseen circumstances, all without any input from its creators. It would have to be an AI that is not just a tool, but a true, independent entity, a silicon-based mind with a mission. The clockwork regularity of its movements suggests a system of flawless, unfaltering programming. Our own best AIs can win at chess and write a decent college essay, but they are a far cry from the kind of robust, autonomous intelligence it would take to pilot a starship through the galaxy for eons. A massive thank you to everyone who has been a part of this journey so far, especially to our incredible Dasonian Power members. Your support makes it possible to keep this independent investigation alive and kicking. Welcome to all the new explorers in the chat. Grab a seat and get ready, because we're just getting started. And let's not forget the sheer mystery of its design. Oumuamua was inferred to have a bizarre, highly unconventional shape. The recent ESA images of 3I Atlas show what appears to be a cluster of objects, or at least a highly non-uniform body. This is a recurring theme. These visitors are not sleek, saucer-shaped ships from a 1950 seconds movie. Their designs are likely pure function over form, engineered for the harsh realities of interstellar travel, not for what we would find aesthetically pleasing. The reason we are seeing strange shapes might be because these are not ships in the sense of a vehicle to carry beings, but are complex, multi-component machines. The Stingray, or Space Invader, shapes we've glimpsed might be arrays of instruments, engine pods, or communication devices, all arranged in a way that is optimized for physics, not for beauty. This level of technological superiority is humbling, and it should be. It provides a crucial piece of perspective. When people ask, if aliens exist, why haven't they contacted us? The answer might be because the technological gap is so immense that a meaningful conversation is impossible. We are not their peers. To this probe, we might be a fascinating but primitive biological phenomenon, like a team of human scientists observing a newly discovered tribe of primates. The scientists don't try to teach the primates calculus. They just watch, they learn, and they try not to interfere. the silence of 3i Atlas might not be an act of hostility or indifference, but an act of profound respect for the chasm that separates us. To look upon a machine like this, even as a fuzzy blob on a telescope, is to be confronted with a vision of what is possible. It tells us that our own science, as brilliant as it is just one step on a very, very long road. It shows us that the universe is not only old, but filled with the potential for intelligences that have been around far longer than we have, intelligences that have solved problems we have not even learned how to ask yet. In the final piece of this epic script, we will bring our journey to a close, reflecting on what it means to be a human observer in this incredible moment in history. We will ask ourselves not what 3i Atlas is, but what it means for us. So, we come to the end of our current investigation, standing at a precipice of profound mystery and exhilarating possibility. We have journeyed through the data, navigated the swirling vortex of coincidences, and allowed our imaginations to soar to the farthest reaches of what could be. We are left with an object, 3i Atlas, that defies easy explanation. Its clockwork maneuvers, its rhythmic flashes of light, and its glaring lack of a cometary tail have torn a hole in the comfortable, predictable tapestry of our known cosmos. Whether it is a natural object of a kind we have never seen before, or a piece of technology so advanced it borders on the magical, one thing is certain. Our solar system is currently hosting a guest that is forcing us to ask the biggest questions of all. But as our deep dive concludes, the final question we must ask is not, what is it? But what does it mean for us? What does it mean to be a human being, alive on this small blue planet, in this specific moment in history, as this mystery unfolds? Firstly, it means that this is a time for humility. For centuries, we have placed ourselves at the center of the story, the pinnacle of intelligence in a vast, silent universe. 3i Atlas, in its silent and majestic passage, reminds us that we may not be the main characters in this story. We may not even be in the opening credits. We could be a footnote. The technological prowess required to build and operate a machine that can travel between the stars for millions of years is a powerful antidote to human arrogance. It suggests that there are levels of understanding, of engineering, and of intelligence in this universe that are as far beyond us as we are beyond the ants we step over on the sidewalk. And that is not a scary thought. It is a liberating one. It means that there is still so much to learn, so much to discover, and that our own journey of understanding has only just begun. Secondly, this moment is a powerful call for unity. On a planet that is so often fractured by borders, by politics, by ideologies, a mystery like this offers us something rare, a shared perspective. When we look up at 3i Atlas, we are not citizens of different countries. We are citizens of Earth. This object makes no distinction between our nations. Its implications are universal. The knowledge that we may not be alone, the confirmation that interstellar travel is possible, would be a heritage for all of humanity, not just for one government or one agency. It is a stark and beautiful reminder that the things that unite us, our shared planet, our shared curiosity, our shared destiny, are infinitely more significant than the things that divide us. The refusal of agencies to share data in a time like this is not just bad science. And finally, this moment is a profound celebration of curiosity itself. The story of 3i Atlas has been driven forward not by pronouncements from on high, but by the relentless work of individual observers. It was driven by scientists like Medvedev and Pavlov, who took the time to look at old data with fresh eyes. It's been driven by passionate advocates like Avi Loeb, who dared to propose an extraordinary hypothesis to fit extraordinary evidence. And it's been driven by communities like this one, a global network of independent, critical thinkers who are willing to question, to speculate, and to observe for themselves. This is the very essence of the human spirit. We are a species that looks up at the dark and does not just see emptiness. We see questions, we see patterns, we see possibilities. And now, my friends, a final, heartfelt thank you. Thank you for joining me on this wild and wonderful journey. Thank you for your energy, your intelligence, your support, and your insatiable curiosity. This channel, this community, this shared adventure, it is what it is because of you. Whether you're a long-time explorer or a newcomer who just joined the spaceship tonight, know that you are a vital part of this mission. Whatever 3i Atlas ultimately turns out to be, it has already given us a gift. It has reawakened our collective sense of wonder. It has reminded us that the universe is still full of breathtaking mysteries, and that the greatest discoveries may be just around the corner. We live in a privileged time, a moment when our technology is finally catching up to our oldest dreams. We are the generation that may get the answer. So, stay curious, stay observant. Stay skeptical of anyone who tells you there's nothing to be concerned about. Keep watching the skies, and never ever let anyone tell you that it's just a rock. Because right now, the evidence is pointing to something far, far more interesting. Thank you for being here. This has been Dasonia Power. I will see you on the next one. Clear skies. The day after confirmation would be the first day of a new human era. It would be confusing, scary, and filled with uncertainty, but it would also be electrifying, inspiring, and full of a profound and beautiful hope. In the next part, we'll continue this thought experiment and ask a very practical question. What technologies might we be able to reverse engineer just by observing this object from afar? Could simply watching 3i Atlas give us the clues we need to unlock a new chapter in our own technological evolution? The secrets might be hiding in plain sight.